When has Brandon Aiyuk not been in the news over the course of what's becoming a really long off season? By the way, I've enjoyed a 35-degree temperature drop today. Started in Nashville where it's over 95. Now I'm in San Francisco where it is in the low 60s. Driverless ride. We're working our way up toward the Dolphin Club where I can get back into the Bay. And on the driverless ride, we can talk about Brandon Aiyuk, because I think it's Adam Schefter for the second time had to come out today and say, no, the 49ers have not wanted to trade Brandon Aiyuk. They want him on the football team, just not at the price that Brandon is currently asking for. This has been patently obvious ever since this latest controversy started a few days ago when Brandon Aiyuk said, while he was laughing in a clearly staged video, that the 49ers don't want him anymore. It was really clear that he had a different definition of they don't want me anymore than I think most of us have. Negotiations tend to work this way, especially when the market has been obliterated by another receiver, that receiver being Justin Jefferson, right around the time that negotiations were supposed to be heating up between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. When that Jefferson deal went down, I still remember my exact words. I said that it was going to cause polarization in the negotiations that were still ongoing, meaning players were going to want to shoot toward Justin Jefferson's number, which is extremely high, and teams were going to want to make sure that didn't become precedent. They wanted to make that Jefferson number an outlier. So Jefferson, I mean, just to keep things simple, we can keep it in terms of average per year APY. Jefferson's at $35 million per year, and the rest of the receivers in the league are like 31 or 32 at the very top. And then, I mean, you still have very lucrative contracts at 26, 27, 28 million per year. So if we're just, again, playing this in rudimentary fashion, the 49ers are probably offering Aiyuk something in the mid-20s, mid to upper 20s, let's put it that way. And Aiyuk probably wants something in the lower to mid-30s, something closer to Justin Jefferson. Will they ultimately meet? In all likelihood, yes. The time just isn't now. There's no reason for either side to budge. But there was so much breathless analysis that just missed the point of negotiation when Brandon Aiyuk said what he had to say. I guess he had to say last week, and it was like, oh my gosh, you know, everything is irreparably damaged. The 49ers and Aiyuk will never be able to get to an agreement. And it's like, guys, agreements take time, especially under the circumstances that we currently see. This was very predictable once Jefferson signed his deal. And, you know, then there's this other school of thought, or it's an offshoot, saying, well, then they should have just signed him before Justin Jefferson. Well, the problem is that both parties have to sign a contract for it to become effective. It's not you can't force Brandon Aiyuk to play for you if you're the 49ers, right? He's got to show up to work. And you can't force him to be on a long-term contract. He's got to sign that long-term contract for it to go into effect. So the 49ers could have very well wanted to have signed Brandon Aiyuk at the rate that they found financially efficient for them much earlier, right? The 49ers could have done that, but Brandon Aiyuk would have had to sign it too for it to become a thing. And I think that his representation, Ryan Clark, did not find that to be wise. And I agree with them. You want to ride this out longer so that you get a more favorable deal. Justin Jefferson was always expected to set a new ceiling for that wide receiver market. And it's only logical and natural for other receivers and their representation to have hoped that that ceiling that Justin Jefferson was expected to set this offseason would become precedent. I think the problem comes in where the Justin Jefferson deal was so big that other teams are reluctant to make it precedent for a ceiling that applies to other receivers. And that's where the standoff comes in. Where will the standoff end? Well, the 49ers hold the negotiating power here because they can just keep Brandon Aiyuk under contract. He already is under contract for this 2024 season. And they also exert the potential power of the franchise tag in 2025. It'll probably be around $25 million for that season. So the number of the 2024 fifth-year option, $14.1 million, and the number where the franchise tag is expected to be in 2025, around $25 million, that is the anchor point of this contract. Aiyuk can't expect to go way above $25 million if the 49ers can just enact the power that the CBA gives them to keep him at an average of less than $25 million over the course of the next 2 seasons. So there's goodwill being extended by the 49ers here when we talk about a potential long-term deal worth north of $25 million. And Brandon Aiyuk has earned a lot of that goodwill by how well he's played for them, how he's developed into the type of player that fits perfectly into their system. I mean, all that stuff is great, but the financial realities dictate that the team remains in the driver's seat here, and the team has to go out of its way to award a long-term contract. Now, there are potential benefits that the 49ers would enjoy to paying Brandon Aiyuk a little bit more than the minimum over the next couple years based on the 5th-year option and the tag. And that is they're going to have more financial flexibility as far as moving money around if they give their own extension instead of relying on a 1-year tender, the franchise tender in 2025, and instead of just relying on the 1-year 5th-year option. Those are rigid numbers against the salary cap. $14 million would have to hit here. About $25 million if it gets to the tag would have to hit in 2025. If you award your own extension, if you're the 49ers, then you could run the financial Tetris that I like to call, right? You could spread the cap hits out over 5 years, even 5 years plus, with all the option bonuses and the staggered accordion structures. And that can allow you to stay cap sustainable with the rising cap if you assume it's going to continue rising over a longer period of time. And you could fit that Tetris piece in better with Brock Purdy's contract. So the 49ers, yes, they are incentivized to sign Brandon Aiyuk to a long-term deal because of that. But they're obviously not incentivized to give him more money than they have to give him. And he's incentivized to search for more money than the 49ers can probably give at this point because he saw the Justin Jefferson contract hit the table. It's a classic case of, both sides are at a different spot, and they're not forced to meet in the middle or meet probably closer to the 49ers side until there are severe consequences on the table for not meeting in the middle. And it's June 21st? It's the first day of summer. We're about to make a nice left turn here. And on the first day of summer, we're still far away. We're still a month away from training camp. So there are no real consequences for Brandon Aiyuk to be sitting here without a contract to either side, to the 49ers or to Brandon Aiyuk. I think that's the simple truth of the matter. And we have to keep on repeating it over and over. It's like there's just this fundamental misunderstanding of what's going on. There's, the 49ers aren't interested in trading Brandon Aiyuk. They have explored every option in all of these situations, dating back to 2017 when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over. But at the end of the day, the 49ers are in the business of trying to win a Super Bowl this year. And Brandon Aiyuk is a really good football player. You're a worse team without Brandon Aiyuk on it because unless you can execute some kind of player for player trade that makes you better, which is really hard to do in the NFL, you're not going to improve the team in the short term. And the 49ers are balancing the short term and the long term thinking here. The short term is taking precedence for this team right now. They may not want a Brandon Aiyuk at $33 million per year for the next 5 years, but they certainly want Brandon Aiyuk at $14.1 million for 2024. And that's what this comes down to. And they have him under contract at $14.1 million for 2024. So if they're going to break away from that number for 2024, it's going to have to be favorable for them since they already have it signed, sealed, and delivered. That's what leverage is called. And if Brandon Aiyuk doesn't want to play ball, well, then I think the 49ers will happily stand pat at the $14 million for 2024. It's, you know, and you could be upset with the way that it's set up, and players can be upset with the way that it's set up with the fifth-year option, but the team is the one that's going out of its way to reward the player a year early while he's still under contract here. And just because the Minnesota Vikings went out of their way a year early with Justin Jefferson, bid against themselves and gave him a gargantuan deal with a jump over the previous high water mark that of a size that we had never seen before, just because that's already happened doesn't mean that it has to happen again. I've compared this before to the Justin Jefferson contract. To the Deshaun Watson contract. The Justin Jefferson one I had compared to the Deshaun Watson contract, in that the Browns gave Watson, $230 million fully guaranteed. We had never seen a fully guaranteed contract that big in NFL history. And the instant analysis was, okay, teams are going to have to start giving out fully guaranteed money to these starting quarterbacks. And the truth was, no, they didn't have to do that. And teams didn't follow suit. And there hasn't been a fully guaranteed contract awarded to a quarterback since then. So when a deal first happens, it has the potential to become precedent, but only if the subsequent deals reinforce the principles of that first one. And the 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals with Jamar Chase and the Dallas Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb are all in the position now of being the subsequent contract, the one coming after the deal for Justin Jefferson. And when you're in that subsequent position, I mean, it's a really, the league is paying attention, right? You could either follow suit of the Minnesota Vikings and start to create real precedent, and I don't think the league would be very happy about that, but I think you'd also be shooting yourself in the foot if you're the 49ers, the Cowboys, or the Bengals. Or you can hold firm, go through some discomfort because the receiver's not going to be very happy, but ultimately come out financially in a better position than the Minnesota Vikings. And I think that's where the 49ers currently are. I'm currently at Van Ness and Clay, moving our way toward the bay. If you guys have any questions, looks like I got about 10 minutes before I'm at the Dolphin Club, and I'm going to go swimming here in San Francisco. Again, a 35-degree temperature drop. We went from 95 in Nashville today to like 60 in San Francisco. I know some people experience that temperature drop after a 45-minute ride on BART when they go from Walnut Creek into the city. But I also saw a nice humidity drop today. Feel light here on the West Coast. A little rather impromptu trip. And I figured if I'm doing an impromptu trip, then I should give you guys a driverless ride. See, I've got 10 minutes to go. We're moving through, rolling down Van Ness. You can see the water out there in the distance. Nice sunny day. We're going to be turning, I would think, in a few blocks. But I'm ready to talk 49ers. Brock Purdy's football camp is this weekend. It's going to be out in Ames, Iowa, where he went to college. That's going to be tomorrow, actually. So that should give us something to talk about. He's had 2 installments of this football camp scheduled. One for Levi Stadium, that already happened. The other one out there in Ames. Tight End U was this past week. I attended. I was in Nashville for that. How much would the 49ers owe Brandon Aiyuk if they franchise tagged him in consecutive years? Well, the first tag, we don't know the amount of it next year, but I'm estimating $24.7 million, maybe $25 million. The second tag would be 120% of the first. So it's going to be significantly more than that first franchise tag. So it would be quite pricey, but you know, in a way, especially if you combine it with the only $14 million this year, the cash flow of 3 years would be less through the 5th-year option and 2 tags than it would be through a new deal. Again, you are incentivized to give him a new deal so you could have more flexibility with how you shuffle that money around if you're the 49ers. More flow control for that money, right? Because cap space carries over from season to season, so you could better fit Brock Purdy and company on this roster for years to come. So both sides are incentivized to get something done. They just aren't incentivized to get something done right now, given how obviously disparate their positions are. these things always take time. The 49ers have a track record of getting them done. You go back to 2020 with Kittle, 21 with Warner, 22 with Deebo Samuel, 2023 with Nick Bosa. And I think, with Nick Bosa, the 49ers didn't have nearly as strong of leverage. If you don't have Nick Bosa on the team, it's bad news Bears. Bad news no bear for the 49ers. So they had a cave. I mean, he got a massive contract. It was about the size of Justin Jefferson's right before the season opener because there was the threat of Bosa not showing up to play. I think with Brandon Aiyuk, there's nobody on this 49ers roster that can threaten Nick Bosa's position, right? As the best defensive player in football, or one of the best defensive players in football, somebody with whom they could replace Bosa in maybe not in 1 year, but over the course of a couple of years. I think the way the 49ers are set up at receiver, though, it's a little bit different with Ricky Pearsall. Of course you want Aiyuk now. Of course you're worse without him right now, but you also have Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, and a setup that can potentially move forward without Brandon Aiyuk in that receiving room over the course of several years. So you got a little bit more leverage power if you're the 49ers in this case than you did in the Bosa contract. Here we go, going up a very steep hill in San Francisco. We're moving up Russian Hill now. I used to live on this street. I used to live on Larkin. I hope that we don't stop rolling backward. Always kind of freaks me out on these cars. I used to live right down Larkin, right there. Russian Hill was a good spot to live. We're going to go right by Swenson's Ice Cream here, where if you ever go to Swenson's, check out the Turkish coffee ice cream. Absolutely legit right there. Old school place you could see with the nice neon lighting. Their Turkish coffee ice cream hits different. It's really, really damn good. This is neat because we're going to be making a left turn onto the cable car tracks. We're probably going to drive by Lombard Street. We'll see a bunch of tourists taking a picture of the car. Those of you who haven't seen this in a while because I've been out of town, this is what it looks like when we turn. The most impressive part when these driverless cars turn is when the wheel just spins by itself. So now we're on the Powell Hyde cable car line. Best actually right behind a cable car, but we won't be. However, we will be passing Lombard Street and we'll be able to look down as soon as we get around this UPS truck. There's Alcatraz right ahead of us. I'm not swimming there today. I've swam there before, and we will swim to Alcatraz at some point in the future. Now, here comes Lombard. Here are all the tourists. There's a lot of them. It's summer. Some of them probably pretty cold because they weren't expecting it to be 60 degrees in San Francisco. I think it's extremely pleasant, but some of these tourists might disagree. People trying to cross. I would not have the courage. I mean, I have the courage to ride these cars. I don't know about crossing in front of one. Here we go. There's Lombard Street. There's Coit Tower. There are the tourists. And here's our route. We're going to go down. This is the old Rice-A-Roni shot. You're going to see Alcatraz on this beautiful sunny day right in front of us. So I'm going to swim right down in there. That's Aquatic Park. That's Alcatraz. I'll swim inside the pier today, maybe with a few sea lions. New park. And it's going to be a lot of fun. See, we got a lot of people watching now. This is cool. Ricky Pearsall is signed, by the way. That has nothing to do with the Brandon Aiyuk negotiations. We knew for a long time how much money exactly Pearsall would get. That's preset by the rookie wage scale. Ricky's cap hit for 2024 is only $2.3 million. Brandon Aiyuk's cap hit as it stands for 2024 is $14.1 million. If they can get the long-term deal done before this season, as I think they will, they can lower his cap hit, I estimate, to like $8 million. Could be really, really, could open up even more room that they can carry over into next season. What you see the 49ers doing, they're essentially taking out a zero-interest loan in the future, or toward the future, through how they're manipulating the salary cap, how they're pushing money to that time in the future, because whoa, we saw a cable car. This was an aggressive move. This car's freaked out. We went into the wrong way. There was a cable car in front of us. I wish I had the camera pointed forward. I never seen these cars do that. And it said, okay, I'm not going to stay on hide. It decided to just abort that mission and veer to the right, went into the wrong way of traffic, and got us around the obstacle. Remember in the past, we'd always gotten stuck behind that cable car? Well, Casper learned from his mistakes and really shocked some of the cars coming the other way, but we did get around the difficult spot. Now we're going to make an aggressive left turn. Oh my God, we are wheeling and dealing now. This is awesome. Somebody like upped the aggressiveness meter on the AI of these cars. It's like they went into the Madden sliders and changed the player to be more aggressive. It's exactly what happened. And smarter too. I mean, you do have to be an aggressive driver in the city. Otherwise you get stuck behind a cable car and it's not good. It's called Waymo. Somebody asked if it's an Uber car. It's called Waymo. It's the company that has this. It's a Waymo. It's a Jacksonville Jaguar. See? We're 2 minutes away. But we have hit traffic right here. So gives me a little bit longer to talk to you. Why don't you ask some questions? I haven't been in the cold water in San Francisco Bay in a couple weeks, so I'm not as acclimated. So I'm going to be chilly today. I'm probably only going to stay in for a while. But got to toughen up. Got to get ready for the season. Remember, if the 49ers win the Super Bowl, we're live streaming a swim from Alcatraz. Boat ride out to Alcatraz. Talking the 49ers on the way. And then we're going to hop in at Alcatraz into the bay and swim back to the city. Rules are rules. I made the rules. I have to follow them. I love how we got tourists waving at our car, thanking us for stopping. I mean, thanks for thanking me. I guess I'll wave back. Look at them. They're all very, very curious. I guess I'll wave back, but I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting in the passenger seat. Now they're taking pictures of us. It's funny being inside one of these. And I realized that I think they only operate in San Francisco and Scottsdale as of right now. So everybody that's walking through as a tourist, especially this part of town, we're kind of by the water, they're seeing one of these for the first time.
Phone, keys, or bag.
How about the unknown jersey number? Yeah, the unknown jersey, you'll get to see. There's two promises now. The stakes have been rising. You'll get to see the name on the back of the 17 if the 49ers win the Super Bowl. And you will get to see a live stream of the swim from Alcatraz. Hopefully we could break some records, viewership-wise, as that happens. Mike would drive all the way up from Visalia, and he's going to be on the boat if this happens, and he'll be running the live stream. But that's, right now we're in the dead of summer. We are on the first day of summer. It's June 21st right now. We're talking about Brandon Aiyuk and how the 49ers have obviously never, been intent on trading him. Of course they've explored options, but their plan has been simple throughout. Hasn't been anything revolutionary, right? I mean, everybody acts like these negotiations, it's like the first time that they've seen a negotiation every time it happens, even though it happens every single season with the 49ers. And it's not resolved until right around training camp or a little bit after that. So not really surprising that it hasn't been resolved. I can't believe that people are following for the same kind of wrong read of this every single year, even though at this point, as a 49ers fan, you should have practice. Man, it's crowded here today. So we're going to be making this left turn, fighting all these cars. And then here are the clubs, the South End and the Dolphin Club. Hopefully we pull over here at the end where I could give you guys the nice parting shot, the view of the Golden Gate Bridge. All these bikes seem to be confusing us. Here we are. There's the water. There's the club. And the Golden Gate Bridge, I believe, is enshrouded in fog. Yes, it is. It's in fog out there. All right, we're here.
You're here.
We'll talk to
Please
everybody
make sure it's
soon.
clear
Thanks
when
for
you're
watching.
exiting.